People don't need more data. They need a practice. If you can't actually put it into practice, 28 days of the month gets all bull.
There's a tremendous blockade between knowing and doing.
I'm going to show up. I'm going to be the best citizen I can. And I accept that I have no concept of how big it all really is. And I'm okay with that.
Gabby Reece, professional athlete, podcast host, mother of three, co-founder of Laird Superfood, and fierce advocate for showing up in all aspects of life.
But this whole nonsense of like, I'm going to put my consciousness in a chip, I'm not going to die. It's like, yes, but while you're here, you're also not living.
You're cultivating with this group of super badass women who appear like they're going to live for a very, very long time, but that's not the goal.
I always go back to the starting point. Am I taking care of myself? Am I bringing my best self? Am I able to have the perspective? How strong could I be? I don't mean physically, truly in all the ways, cognitively, in my spirit, in my ability to focus, whatever it is. Can I do that forever? Because it's your essence.
Gabby, great to see you.
Hi, Jeff. It's always great to see you.
Yes. My heart always goes pitter-pat when I think about you for some obvious reasons. You always show up for me, and you've showed up for me in many respects over the years, and I'm always incredibly grateful. But then as I was actually excavating your personal history, I was like, okay, so we can volley a little bit here. So I was raised overseas.
I was raised in the Caribbean.
I have a hip replacement.
I have a knee replacement.
I am in a very, very long-term relationship.
I've been with Laird for 30 years.
Yeah. I have 3 daughters.
I have 3 daughters.
I'm an entrepreneur.
I am definitely an entrepreneur.
Yes, you're probably feeling that right now. And I am not just an entrepreneur, but I work with my better 3/4.
I work with my husband, Laird.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
he goes like this, I have an idea, and we all scurry around.
Yeah, well, that sounds familiar. This is all to say my life is like complicated and messy and great.
Yeah.
And I look at your life, at least from the outside, and I see a lot of similarities. You know, you've managed to make a great life, but it's messy and complicated and intertwined. And I think this may be one of the reasons that I feel so much kinship with you for all those reasons.
Yeah. We're just holding on.
Holding on. So maybe we'll start there. You know, one of the keys to my relationship with Skylar is working with her, but in separate lanes. And I'm wondering if you have any keys to a successful long-term relationship, and then connected to that, to actually working with your lover.
You know, for me personally, I always start with myself. So it's whether it's like my self-care, my attitude, you know, what I'm going to bring to the table, kind of the level I'd like to operate at, and then it ripples out from there. So I think as things become even more messy, as you put it, or intertwined, I think that has been so helpful, because I always go back to the starting point of, am I taking care of myself? Am I bringing my best self? I kind of try to keep that fresh distance at those starting points. If I'm caring for myself and I feel pretty healthy, that's a better place to operate from. And then if I look at Laird and I go, I really admire Laird and appreciate Laird and respect Laird and believe in the things that he's about and what he's pushing for, then that starting point keeps it from getting so enmeshed that I lose that view.
Do you guys operate in separate lanes?
We absolutely operate in separate lanes. So we're separate in that we have really different strengths, and I think we trust each other after all this time. And if I ask or request of Laird, like, hey, I think we should do this, or you have this thing to do at 3:00. Let's say I'm kind of the grand scheduler and detail person. He trusts me enough that he's like, okay, not why and what's this for and all that. We don't have a lot of that, because I will vet things. I won't waste his time, because I also, as his partner, go, how is this person their best? with a certain level of freedom.
Yeah.
He's better left alone to be free, to be in nature, because what he brings back to our home, for me as a friend of his and as a partner and as one of the heads of our family, is so much more powerful and supportive and important for all those things than me trying to squish him into some kind of box. And so I think that is really helpful. And he, I don't want to say that he leaves me alone, but he tries not to give me too much of a hard time if I'm tucked away at the office, doing the things that I think I need to do.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think this is one of the great benefits of long-term commitment. So we often conflate commitment with sacrifice, like what we have to give up. But actually, this kind of long-term commitment, there's such an established root structure that's so deep that allows the branches to sort of splay out wide. Like, I don't need you, Skylar, around all of the time.
Yeah.
And I love it when you're out in the world doing your thing. And there's no jealousy, there's no want, there's less need.
Yeah.
And in a way, that sort of reframes commitment not as sacrifice, but as freedom, as liberation.
I always joke with Laird, it's like me trying to do some kind of mental judo on Laird, is the door's open. You're free. And what happens? Laird wants to be at home having family dinner.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about his pursuit is it usually takes the sun. So he tends to be pretty close to home, unless he's in pursuit of a wave somewhere that is not where we are. Yeah. And so I want to feel free. I want to feel the freedom to be like, as who I fully am. And I really want to provide that space for my partner, because what attracted me to Laird in the first place is so deeply connected to him having those experiences.
Right.
And I don't want to stop that. And I see a lot of people, and I do think, I think it tends to be a little bit more female, because it's maybe the maternal person inside of us, which is like, we want to control things. We want to tell everybody how to be and do. And I knew very early in my relationship with Laird, and I think it's because I heard a line from him. Clearly, I had a mother. So that got taken off the table really early, which liberated me from thinking that way.
Interesting. Yeah.
I'm here to support and to nurture you and love you. I'm not here to mother you. And so what that does is it also keeps the dynamic of, we're each these two people, and we can enjoy each other, and pretty much we can't really infringe that much on the other unless it's sort of like invited. Mm-hmm. And that kind of checks and balance is certainly good for me, because I could probably easily overstep and try to take over. And so I think I was really fortunate to pick a partner that helps me stay out of that part of my personality.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think creativity is central to a long-term relationship?
I think in my relationship it is. I don't know, maybe other relationships it isn't. I think, and when you say, it's funny, people think of creativity as like, it's music, it's painting. I don't think that's the only way it shows up. I think being curious, trying to continue to evolve and dream. These are creative endeavors. And so for me personally, this has been something that is paramount because that's how we both pursue things individually.
It's been very central to my relationship with Skylar.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also very easy to focus co-creativity onto your children. And then your children leave, and then it's like, whoa,
Yeah.
But we've never done that. I mean, clearly we've focused on our children together, but we've always had these other projects. And generally for us, we have very similar values, and we cohere around the vision and mission. And then it's like, well, I'll see you there. Like, I'll take the 101. you take the back roads and I'll meet you downtown. And that has been a successful recipe for us. And it sounds like that's not totally dissimilar from your experience.
The values is the big thing,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I think in our case, like when I see you and Skylar, it's clear pretty quickly what's similar, what's different. And I think with Laird and I view us more similarly.
I think so. You're right.
And yet at the core, it's the values are really, I mean, Laird grew up in Hawaii. We said it earlier. I grew up in the Caribbean. There's certain values that are just who each of us are that are so lined up. And yet we are so different because it's not only how we approach things, Laird's relationship with nature. It's exaggerated, I think, in our case by the masculine and the feminine. Both of us house that a lot of both of those energies, and in some ways really extreme. And so we definitely take different paths.
Do you ever go to bed mad?
Not too often. I mean, probably when I was younger, more often. And then you realize it's not worth it.
That's been one of the other keys.
Don't go to bed mad.
Yeah.
Well, you're sensitive.
Yeah.
It's nice.
One thing I always have to remember is when I'm mad, I'm the one who's angry, who's suffering, who's irritated, who's holding the ember.
They're snoring.
Yeah,
and you're like, get up.
They're dreaming about George Clooney.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, hold on. Like, I'm the one brooding over revenge
It's
schemes.
so great when you realize that. You go, wait a second, they are sleeping and I'm pissed.
Yeah. So one question I've thought about asking you for some time, because I know that, you went to FSC, or you went to high school in Florida, right?
Well, what happened is my junior year, I was pretty rudderless. And so I got brought to St. Petersburg, Florida for my last 2 years of high school. And that's really why I ended up in volleyball, period.
Right. But that was never like a, like part of your long-term plan. I'm going to be a volleyball star.
When I left St. Thomas, I was 15. And by the time I was 16 and 17, so I graduated at 17, I was getting offers to go to college. I was 6'3". I'm 6'3", to play college volleyball and basketball. And I remember talking to my friends back in St. Thomas going, yeah, I think I might go to college on a scholarship, because we couldn't really afford all that. And they go, for what? So to say it wasn't a plan, in literally a span of 12 to 18 months, my entire trajectory was reoriented.
Okay, but did you have athletic aptitude? Because it's one thing to be tall.
Yeah.
It's a whole nother thing to actually learn the nuances and skill sets of a sport. Was that aptitude there? I mean, did those things come pretty easy, or were you just like, no, whoa, I've got to like put hours and hours and hours and hours on the court for that?
I think the lucky thing for me and the position I played, or what was required of me first, I could actually kind of forego a couple of the skills if I focused strongly on a couple of the ones that I was going to be really good at. And then I was good enough to get to FSU. I will work hard and I'm very coachable and I'm probably athletic. But I think what I was good at doing was, okay, let's not focus on 20 things. Focus on these 4 and 5, because you'll be more of use to us if you can do this really well. And so it gave me a little more runway, not have to take it all on at once. And then as I got more proficient at certain things, then I could, I'll add a few more drills in here and there. And I would say even to this day, I'm probably not the world's greatest setter. Can I set a ball in transition? Sure. But they were like, yeah, save those minutes. Let's focus on the things that we really need you for.
Okay, that's interesting. So did you bring that skill into later life? And what I mean by that, wisdom is, in some respect, recognizing the things that you are best at and bringing those forward, but also having the humility to actually acknowledge the things that you might not be that great at and infilling around that. Was that a lesson that you brought from athletics into life?
I think that's what part of life is I had to ask myself really early in my life, where can you get some traction
Hmm.
and really put your foot on the gas there. And then as you get some momentum, or this becomes easier, or it's sort of moving, then you can kind of look back and say, all right, let me see if I can pick up in some of these areas that I'm not great at. So I think I learned that very early, because it was also tied to a little bit of my survival, my work.
Yeah.
And so I think it started with athletics and then branched out into some other things. So I just think it was also really necessary. My favorite line that I use in coaching a lot, especially in the pool, which is scary and hard. So it's not just hard, it's scary. So you have to deal with other emotions. Mm-hmm. I'll watch people, a lot of type A's. They come in and oh yeah, I suck at this, it's whatever. And I just ask them one simple question. Have you ever done this before? And then they look at me and I go, okay, shall we begin? Because it's sort of like,
well, you probably get, the creme de la creme athletes that show up, but they've never done it and they're feeling really self-conscious.
Well, and my job and my hope, even more than my job, is to create an environment for them to feel really good about the process.
Yeah.
And that the wins, every time there's a win, to be like, you didn't complete the task, but let's talk about what was really great from the first time to this time. Mm-hmm. And just to get them to stay focused on that part, for me is more important. But this idea, I will ask myself, like, that expression, like, you're not good enough to be that mad about it.
Yeah.
And I think about that a lot in my life and my work, because I still see things I haven't experienced or haven't done before. So I'm like, listen, you're not smart enough in this area to be this critical of yourself. You're not even close. So what are you doing? Mm-hmm. That humility of, oh yes, okay. My dream would be, and for my girls would be, it's all part of the deal. Somehow we've separated success and mistakes and failures and wins and losses and things like that as these two separate things. Mm. These things are all one thing.
Yeah, I suppose a failure is only really a failure if you don't learn from it. That failure begets experience and experience begets knowledge.
Yeah.
But only if you're humble enough to actually acknowledge the failure instead of just doubling down on doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, or spending a ton of time in some kind of weird negative feedback loop about some narrative about who you are and what you are. It's like, you don't know who you are in this experience. You're just learning about it. And I think the tendency is to try to define where you are on the scale of this right out of the gates. And I think that takes a little bit more time.
I'm wondering what was one of your greatest challenges and what changed on the other side of that challenge?
Listen, being a professional athlete was a challenge. I felt like I was, holding on to the reins a lot of the time and always playing catch up. Mm-hmm. But then there was sort of this expectation at the same time. And I think that was something that took me a long time to understand. Maybe I was always going to feel a little bit like that because certain things weren't intuitive for me. I didn't start really early. I hadn't played for years and years and years. And somehow I was thrust and to my good fortune in these positions, and in certain ways really, really good, but kind of making peace with the duality in my case. You'll see I'll use tennis as the analogy. There's players that can make a career out of being good at a couple things. And then there's players that don't have a ton of weaknesses. And I can tell you that the psyche of the player that's good at a couple things, like really good, they're always housing those two things. And so for me, I think I went through that in my athletic career, and it was maybe only something I understood till after, which is, kind of an ass kicker. I think in parenting teenage girls was and is, because I still do have one teenager, where I'm just like, whoa, when am I going to get it? Like, when am I really going to get how to connect with this kid, get them, see if I can put them in a position to learn the lesson? Because I certainly can't just teach them the lesson.
That's
It's
right.
about helping them be put in the position, and they're all different. You know, one needs more stress, one needs elevation, one needs fuzzy cuddle. Like, they're all so different. And so for me, that's the one I'm always kind of looking at, and then occasionally coming out the other side and being like, oh, that worked.
That worked. Yeah.
And the metric on that could take 3-5 years.
Yeah.
So that's always the interesting thing, where you go, oh, that thing from 4 years ago, I think it worked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's always one tricky one. Or at least in our family, we have the trickiest daughter, who's the daughter that I have the most empathetic bond with at the same time. Also, that was probably the biggest challenge, and also my biggest failure as a parent. Things that I wasn't able to recognize. Like, I was here and she was here in the house, but how did I not see the thing?
Do you know the analogy of islanders that are on the island and the ship is coming? The pirate ship, Captain Cook, whatever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But they can't see the ship because they've never seen a ship.
Uh-huh.
So they actually don't even recognize it. And I think sometimes in parenting, if our brain doesn't work a certain way, or we didn't experience it a certain way, it's only until someone points it out or the bomb has gone off that you go, how did I not see that?
Yeah.
And it's because you've never seen it.
That's a salve to my ego. I mean, it's funny. I was walking through the hills listening to Alan Watts. He's one of my favorite
I love him.
little...
And that voice. Oh.
Yeah. Oh my God. So sexy. He said the root, I'll try to do it in his transatlantic. I won't be able to do it. The root of ignorance is ignore.
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't know. I was ignorant. I didn't see it. But was I also ignoring it? And was I not present to it? And in retrospect, and I don't mean to be like oblique, my daughter had an eating disorder. I've talked about it. It's okay. She knows that I talk about it.
Yeah.
I feel like in some ways she left little notes in my jacket pocket for me to find, but I just never put that jacket on.
That's different, because sometimes maybe that's also connected to, I'm scared because I know I'm the one who's supposed to figure out what to do and how to deal with it. And I don't know. And I think a lot of parents have moments that they go through that. I think if you have a relationship with your children, you probably have felt that.
There are many ways of becoming wise. Having children is a very potent one. They've taught me how to father along the way. You know, this is part of becoming 55, whatever, being in midlife, recognizing, letting go on some level, watching them leave, sort of resigning to the notion that, I've planted these incredible trees that I'll never sit under. I mean, it's heartrending. And yet at the same time, I think this is a central part of wisdom, is accepting the transience of all things and becoming better at letting go. And eventually you and we will have to let go of ourselves.
Yeah. I heard a great line the other day, like, isn't the goal to become irrelevant, to that notion. And, I again, this is my very practical personality, where I just go, yeah, of course, that's what the job is. That's what the deal is. And once that becomes known to me, there might be moments of like, a little bit of angst, but usually I'm like, yeah, no, that's what's going to happen. So I try really hard not to spend a lot of time in that space, because I don't see it serving me or them. Something else that's really feels important is, let's say we're like, oh, I hope they learn to, have great intimate relationships, or the value of hard work and all the things that we go through. And then I go, the best thing I could do is, in an act of prayer or meditation or whatever, put out into the world, I believe in you and you're going to figure it out. You're going to do great. Because at some point, that's deep inside of me what I really believe. And I know getting there is sometimes it's not an easy journey. But if I can also remember where I was in some ways at their age, then I'm like, man, they're way ahead.
Did you have someone that believed in you the same way that you believe in your girls?
I had a lot of peripheral adults. I had people that stepped in because I wasn't, always with my parents. My father died when I was very young, and I didn't always live with my mother. I had all these people step in, and it wasn't that they believed in me, but the fact that they were willing to care for me and love me, which is the greatest way. And then later it was adults, coaches that I could feel that they were behind me. And that was really, it was so important and part of why I'm able to be doing all the things I'm doing. There was something inside of me always. I thought, I'm going to build a life. Yeah. And I remember at 15 when I moved to Florida, I said I felt like I got put a little bit into this bubble where something happened when I moved. And just the people, I went to this Christian school and I had all the right things, a lot of people around me that were all the right things about that. And I thought, I just got put into this protective bubble that made me feel like you can figure it out. And it was really, really helpful for me because I had to do a lot of it on my own. Mm-hmm. So it made me feel like, oh yeah, you're not on your own. None of us are. If we can receive kind of the grace that is around us, if we can actually see it, because it sometimes isn't in the way that we want it. It doesn't come in the form of like, I have a traditional home and there's a nice lawn and like 2 parents, but the grace and the good fortune was all around me. And so I think the ability to recognize it early was so helpful.
I've often thought that my children will never listen to me, but they rarely fail to imitate me. And I wonder if you've had this experience with your girls. They've seen you work so hard on yourself and for yourself that you don't need to teach them that they internalize that behavior because they see how valuable it is. Do you see that in your girls? Are they old enough that you can see that?
I do see it. Sometimes my only concern is I had a lot of discomfort when I was younger, and I had a lot of have to. You kind of, you have to.
Just economic pressure and...
Yeah, and like you will work and be savvy. I didn't spend a lot of time partying or doing any of that. I kind of finished all that by 15 because I didn't have a backup. I see my girls, I'm still waiting on one of them to see because there's so much backup. Laird and I give them a lot of backup.
Yeah, like come home, you can crash here.
There's backup. Like we're coming up from the rear. Yeah. And so and that's a new thing for me to be a part of as far as like in any dynamic. And so I always hope that it's like, I know that you could never go wrong with love, but I always want to make sure that we're creating that environment that also sometimes they feel a little pinch if it doesn't come naturally, that it will thrust them into their life. Mm-hmm. And I've seen each one of them that got to young adulthood really work hard and like take it on. And so we'll see. There's one more, and we'll see how that pans out. And it's the notion of like, I interviewed this guy, Luke Cook, the other day. He's an actor, lovely. Yeah. And I said, hey, is there any last thing? He's like, listen, we're all going to die, like at some point. And sometimes I think, what am I really fretting about? Like these girls are going to be okay. And maybe they won't. Like it's like all of that also has to be sort of okay too. Mm-hmm. Because if I spend all this time projecting like, worried of this, that, it's like, who's that? That's not helping anybody. And it's really not helping me. And it doesn't make me better to be around.
And also like you've never solved your anxiety by worrying about it.
It's just, and if at this point, the reality about our age is if you cannot put those lessons and those truths and all that, the pondering and all the reading and all the lecturing and all the things that you've done, if you can't actually put it into practice, 28 days of the month, then like it's all bullshit.
Yeah. It's interesting, an observation about you from the outside is that you don't actually have a lot of inertia between knowing and doing. Is that fair?
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, like, I think that's a big issue, particularly like in the information-based health space.
Yeah.
Like we all know we should get morning sun in the, or sun in the morning, or we all know we should get rid of the blue light at night. Like, are we doing it? I think there's a tremendous blockade between knowing and doing. Yeah.
So certainly the more I know, the more my understanding is like, whoa, this is a big mystery.
Yeah.
Like I don't have to wrestle with that. I'll keep asking questions and keep wondering, but I have really made peace with this is so much bigger than me, than my understanding. Because when you're young, right, you have to put everything in its box and everything, because I think it's the only way you can go into life, because otherwise it'd be too overwhelming. You'd be like aliens, quantum, like you'd just be like, no, this is too much. I'm trying to figure out how to like get the cable turned on, right? So I think there's a time that our brain
Still
works.
Figuring that out.
Our brain works that way, so we can sort of get it done, build a life, do that stuff. Yeah. I'm in a place where I'm like, oh, this is a mathematical equation that I can't figure out. So I accept with my heart. I'm a very kind of analytical person, but this is where I drop into my heart and I just go, yeah, okay. I'm going to show up. I'm going to be the best citizen I can. And I accept that I have no concept of how big it all really is. And I'm okay with that.
There's this image of bringing a torchlight out into the night sky. And what it reveals is how much more night sky there is. That's what I often think about knowledge.
Yeah.
Is this, the more I know, the more I actually realize I don't know. And, I'm a very curious human being. I love learning. And the more I learn, the more I realize, holy shit, like I don't know anything really about neuroscience or metabolism or gastroenterology or physics or Eastern mysticism. Like there's there's so much to know.
Well, you have to be.
Yeah, just be.
You have to be. Like at some point, all this scurrying around and hacking and I'm like, listen, what are the kind of fundamentals that doesn't mean stop learning. I believe in that, but not as a distraction to being, to loving, to living, to feeling, to really doing those robustly, and not to chase. How could I be in pursuit and be more still than I've ever been? And that for me is something that I find. That feels really compelling to me right now, which is within my pursuing is, am I still? Am I just being?
Yeah, that sounds like an oxymoron for a moment, but I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
Like I can go travel around the world on a book tour. There's like thriving, striving, grasping or whatever, going. And then you're there and you're on the stage and there's a lot of people and you're really very still. There's also this, a quietness to the pursuit. It's interesting.
Because I think we should have little dreams our whole lives.
Yeah.
And that takes a level of pursuit.
Yeah.
And they don't have to be anything outside of your house or your block. I'm not suggesting that, but I think when you get up each day and you think, is there something else out there for me that I, in a creative way, to express myself, to learn about myself, to try something that makes me uncomfortable, if it's aligned with me, not just, well, I'm going to do that because everyone's doing that. No, like this is this thing that feels really interesting and it kind of scares me a little, but I really want to try it, but not to be on to the next. It's like, this is where I am right now. I'll deal with the things next. And I think if learning to house those energies gets easier as you get older, and I really I strive for that.
Yeah, I feel like this is a pretty good age. Like we know, and we're still pretty able. It also, to be able does require some sacrifice. I mean, you're still going pretty hard.
Yeah.
Just in terms of your own,
yes,
maintaining your own physical stature.
Yeah, I train hard.
Yeah.
I mean, my training is hard, but that's what works for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I would never impose my way on other people. But that feels good to me, because there's also not only, the physical benefits, the hormonal, all the things. I always think that in that moment, I have to be pretty honest. And so it's always when I talk about those reboots, right? Every time I train really hard, it's like, it's right back into the honesty of, I don't really want to, this feels hard.
Mm-hmm.
This gives me these great tools to show up better in my life. And what I've always gotten from it is I go, okay, that you had to do. Because there's other things in all people's lives that you do, but there's a little bit of phoning in. Like right now I have lipstick on, if I take a picture, they're going to fix it later. You don't have to like really do it. And the thing I always like about the training is like, you got to do it. I mean, if that's your thing.
Yeah.
And I try.
Well, there's no lying in it.
Yeah. I love it. And it has been tried and true for me. I think it's something I lean on as it's a litmus test too, because it kind of is like, well, how am I doing today? Meaning all my feelings, my thoughts, it all in the training, it all shows up. And it's a really good way that I survey my life, because I think, I feel tired today. Well, why do you feel tired? Well, I'm not really getting to bed early enough, or I need to clean up my eating, or I have some things I need to say to somebody I'm not, and harboring these feelings is making me tired. Whatever it is, it all shows up. And so it's a really great way just to kind of, wipe it all out and take a look. And for me, it's, the doing, the being. If I'm out there and if I'm really committed to sort of nudging people to build a practice, whatever it looks like for them, that supports them, I need to show up. And I can't be like, let me tell you how I train. You should be able to look at me and think, well, she must do something. It's like I can meet all kinds of athletes, whether they're professional, recreational, whatever. And I have a sense of where they spend a lot of their time doing in their movement based on their physique. And I'm not saying you're 7 feet tall, so you're in the NBA. Those are the obvious ones. But I can see an athlete or a person, let's say they're a lawyer, but I'm like, oh, you run a lot.
Yeah.
Or you're CrossFitting, or you're whatever. So there's just stuff about somebody, where they're spending their time.
That's so funny that you have that radar.
Oh, yeah.
Like when I lost a ton of weight and I was dealing with my whole diabetes thing, I would like walk around on the sidewalk and be like, I'd look at people and be like, oh God, they have those little brown spots on the back of their neck. Like, should I tell them to it's like your radar goes off for things that, you become very intimately close with. I'm curious, like, what does a typical training day look like for you?
8:30, I would train pretty hard in high intensity workout. It's not fun, but I invite my friends, so whoever wants to show up that day. I used to do it with like 80 people on Kauai.
That sounds like a blast.
It is. It was hard and sweaty, and it forced me to show up. That's why I did it.
Were you just leading, or were you working on too?
No, I always trained, and I was always in the first team. I would put the team behind me that couldn't pay attention, because I know, or in front of me, I should say, because I was like, I know what we're doing.
Right.
And so I do that 3 days a week. It's hard, it's sweaty, it's fast, it's efficient. It's a way to get it done. And then when it's a little warmer, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, we have pool training that we do that is incredible. It's, it's hypoxic. You can be explosive and ballistic without crushing your joints. So that's really nice. You're outside, you're in water, it's kind of like you're playing, but it's hard. And this is a way to really train hard and not hurt yourself.
Yeah.
So you can be exhausted, but not crushed. And I think for both Laird and I, we are looking for activities that we can do that have that element to it. So I can do 100 jumps or 200 jumps in the pool from the deep end and work on that part, those mechanisms, but yet it's not like plyometrics on land.
Right. Yeah.
So there's some great things with that, and the breathing. There's a lot of benefits to that training, lymphatic drainage, because you're in water, you're in pressure, right? So there's so many things about that training that are really incredible. So we've done that for about 18 years, and then on the fringe, it's like, okay, hiking. I have a stand-up bike so it has no seat. I like that because I'm not in the hunched over position.
Right.
One thing I don't need is tighter hips. When you play a sport like volleyball, and you're tall like me, that's the thing you're always going to be working on. So then I'll sprinkle in, okay, go to the beach, walk backwards, try to sprinkle those other activities in there just to keep it all going.
Yeah. I find variety is important. I can often, end up in a workout rut where I'm just kind of doing the same thing every day.
Yeah.
And then I'll, flip it up and, obviously you're working different muscles and everything, but just psychologically, you just like get more inspired.
Yeah. And I think to get that change, I'm guilty of that. It's like, I like to do things I'm good at, and
right.
I got to really buck that.
So 2026 has big things. Any other big, goals for next year? I mean, I know you have some professional goals. You've been...
Yeah, I always have professional goals.
Well, I know you've been doing this thing, with Gabrielle Lyon and Stacey Sims, the collective.
Yep. So that'll get launched in 26 because these are not busy ladies at all.
No, they're just sitting around. They're definitely sitting on the couch.
Totally.
Yeah.
They just, yeah.
I saw Stacey in Melbourne.
Yeah.
When I was there.
Great.
And wow. I mean, this place was big theater.
Yeah.
Jammed.
Yeah.
Not an empty seat.
Yeah. She's great.
She's on fire.
They're on fire. And so the hope is, we always say, like, not health for women by women, but through the female lens. Yeah. And I think that, they're all married. They all have children. They all have professions. And I think most busy people, male or female, that's kind of what they're dealing with. My big thing is, at the end of the day, people don't need more data. They don't. They need a practice.
Yep.
And they need to make it their practice and have the courage. And I know people like to be told what to do, but I just don't know if that's really the way. This is the thing in me every day when I think about doing this. It's like, how could we invite you to figure out why that would be important for you to do? What's the word? What's the phrase? Who's the person? What's, and not like your doctor has to tell you, if you want to, see your kids graduate or go down the aisle, you'll take care of yourselves. Yeah. But for it to become something, it's not that it's effortless, because it's not, but understanding that it's important. That part I want. How can we get people to solidify that belief once and for all? You can work it out once you really believe. But that's the thing I'm always like, how are we not still understanding that figuring out a way to move on a regular basis, getting out in sunlight, eating real food, loving each other, getting to bed.
How much does accountability have to do with that? Because I look back at your career, you were accountable to your teammates, to your coach.
A great point.
So I wonder, is that part of the equation? The community aspect or the coaching aspect, where it's like, no, you best show up.
There are long distance runners that can do it alone. There might be people who work out at 10 o'clock at night. It's a small percentage. The reason I taught the class, the reason I have my friends come over is so I get it done. And you're not going to find too many more people more disciplined than me.
Yeah.
And I have it even one bonus up. I live with a person who, when I don't want to, I look out the window and I go, oh, look at him. So
I have the opposite. I have a wife that's just sitting there sipping tequila with a preternaturally ripped
yeah, and I was just
body.
saying, she's just a mighty
so
might.
Unfair.
So I have it built in, but I think your point is the most important point. And I want to remind people, listen, some of the people you move with may not be your best friends. They may not be the ones you tell your personal, deep, thoughts and feelings to. They just might be the people that you meet a couple times a week to get it done, and you like each other and you're on the same page for that hour about what you're trying to get done. It doesn't have to be that. It just means having those communities that facilitate. And the way I look at it is, how do I create a system, scaffolding in my life, in my days, my weeks, my months and years that help me be successful in that? And I just build the scaffolding around it. So I got to be there at 8:30. Oh, I said I was going to do the thing at 7. It's all that. It isn't about waking up and going, oh, what's wrong with me? I don't feel like it. Nobody really feels like it.
One of my little tricks
Yeah.
is pairing something that's good for me with something that I really love.
Like tennis?
Okay, so tennis is one that's good for me and I love, and it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But also, like in the gym, like when I'm trying to lift, listening to some amazing music.
I think it's important for people to realize that it's what the ways that it works for you, but it's on you to discover what that looks like. Like me, I do like to enjoy it and not, but there's a part of me that's like, I like it that it's hard.
You're a masochist.
No, I'm not a masochist. It's like, it's the idea of, it's that thing inside of me that sort of thought my health and my life are a gift. My family, like you look around and you think, I've been given a lot. Mm-hmm. So where can I, in just small moments, because we can't really earn it, right? We're getting grace. But there's something in me that it's like, if it's down and dirty enough, it's like, I'm putting in a layer. I'm laying down a layer. And so I think I think people have to realize that we all speak many languages and they might be different, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But how do you want to do it? But if they think it's all going to be fluffy and feel good, I don't know that that's how you get the most. There has to be sometimes that discomfort that you get a relationship with. I think it's such a valuable relationship because then you can carry it forth. So when your kid is going through something, you have this thing that you can lean on where you go, ooh, this feels really uncomfortable and I'm going to be okay.
Yeah. Doing hard things makes doing other hard things more palatable.
It just does.
Does gratitude come easily for you?
It does. It's just not wrapped in the usual, linen cloth.
It's not a meme.
I don't think it is.
Yeah.
I've had hard moments, and I recognize non-hard moments. I recognize opportunity. I recognize in very small ways, for whatever reason, I'm hardwired to recognize a lot. But I'm not necessarily a person who's like, oh my gosh, look at how, I can see stuff and be like, that's amazing.
Okay, so there's, I think, an interesting distinction between gratitude as an emotion where you can feel thankful for something that appears in your life.
Yes.
Okay, and that feeling arises in consciousness and you're like, oh, I have appreciation for it.
Oh, yeah.
But then there's gratitude 2.0, which is really more of a disposition.
Yeah.
And I really am in awe of the people that can walk through the world just seeing the abundance and not the lack day to day. And I don't know, where are you?
I think I'm more like that.
Yeah, I would say so.
I don't know why. It's something I've done. I just think it's pretty inherent for me to go like, pretty good.
I'll tell you, I'm incredibly grateful for what is normal. We were talking about this before we started recording.
Yeah.
But so I've just gone through this crazy bout of excruciating back pain.
Yeah.
And then just getting spat out the other side of that experience, I'm still in that little alpenglow of like, oh my God, I'm walking like in an erect posture.
Yeah.
This is so fucking good, you know? And I hope, you know, that I will likely become complacent again about walking.
Yeah.
But I do think it is a good reminder of like, oh my God, you know, we are just gifted this incredible experience of being alive. We'd be crazy not to be grateful for it.
You know, I've been injured and needed help getting from A to B.
Yeah.
And
Is that your knee the worst one?
Yeah, or just stuff happened. You know, over the years,
yeah.
things have happened, and so I think that's why I feel so passionate about hoping for other people to have their version of feeling most days pretty good. Because that's the other thing we talk about in our house, which is a lot of times people think, oh, this gassy feeling, and oh, I'm tired. Oh, I feel stressed. Oh, you know, I'm not sleeping well. People don't even get the opportunity to know the feeling of like, well, I feel pretty good. I have energy. I feel even keeled. I make decisions from a pretty balanced place. I've never been a great sleeper. So that's something I'm always navigating. And so the hope is like, just that feeling, wanting people to feel really good, because what happens is they go, well, that's just how it is. Oh, and now they turn a certain age. So they go, well, I guess that's how it is because I'm this age. And I don't know that I really believe that. I believe we've got an opportunity to feel pretty good, not perfect. We don't have to always look in the mirror and be like, I love everything about it. I'm not talking about that.
Yeah.
But like, hey, I feel pretty good. Food tastes good. And, you know, I'm trying to react and respond, and that's kind of lined up mostly. And using health, being well, having the avatar be well, so the spirit can really jam and do its thing.
I mean, there's this crazy distension of morbidity now in this country where, you know, the average person spends their last 20 years not feeling that way.
Yeah.
Increasingly limping through life with panoply of chronic diseases and the cocktail of pharmaceuticals in their hand, etc. You know, I guess that would lead me to the question, maybe the final question, which is, in this era of like biohacking and longevity, how important is it to you to live a very, very, very long time?
I don't really think about it. I just think about the quality of my life and what I can contribute and my relationships, and am I excited about something?
Well, I think it's stereotypically male to pursue escape velocity or look at longevity as an individual pursuit, you know?
Yeah.
And I think this is interesting about what you're cultivating with the collective, you know, this group of super badass women who appear like they're going to live for a very, very long time, but that's not the goal. You know, the goal is, to be an elder and not elderly, you know, to be wisdom holders, to have a, you know, superlative health span.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, there is a strong part of my personality that's like, I'm not going down like that. I'm really interested in, well, how strong could I be? Truly, I don't mean physically, truly in all the ways, cognitively, in my spirit, in my ability to focus, whatever it is. Could I do that forever? Could I, because it's your essence then. It's like, I would like my essence to be robust and then move on. I don't want to dwindle and wither and people, you know, have to translate it for me.
Yeah, it's funny. In Hinduism, I think it's called the ashramas, where it's like the stages of life, where you're the brahmacharya student, then you become the householder. Yeah. We're sort of like at the end of householder, or like kind of tired, a little tired of householder, like, you know?
What's for dinner? It's like, I don't know. What's for dinner?
You tell me what's for dinner. And then the next stage is forest dweller.
Yes.
So you go out and you meander through the hills, right? And
I
then,
like the idea.
And then the final stage is samyasan, and you become the old sage that just sort of disintegrates.
Yeah.
And so I feel that too. I feel like, especially as like the girls leave the house,
Yeah.
it's like maybe this householder chapter.
Yeah.
Maybe we can move on from
And people always say, aren't you sad? No, I'm not. Because one, it's coming.
Mm-hmm.
It's bittersweet, yes. But it's also beautiful that you have the opportunity to experience your children going out into their life. I have friends that don't get to experience that. Either they chose not to or could not have children, or even worse, if they had a child pass at a young age.
Yeah.
The gift of all the stages, whatever they are, lucky.
Yeah.
And so I want to approach it that way.
It was very funny. The other day, I was sort of bemoaning the impending empty nestum. We register it by plates. So we were 5 plates.
Yep.
Then we were 4
yeah.
plates.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're 3 plates.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Micah goes off, we'll just share a salad bowl. So we'll probably just go to 1 plate.
Yeah.
But I was, we were 3 plates. So it was Skylar and me and Micah. We were sitting around. And I'm like, pretty soon it'll be just like 1 plate, me and Mom. And Mike was like, what are you talking about, Dad? By the time I go to college, Phoebe will have moved back in.
That's true. We call it open nest, by the way, not empty.
Open nest.
Open.
That's much better. And
Yes.
I thought it was the funniest comment, and I was just laughing, and I was laughing because, how true it could possibly be.
Yes.
And I was like, yeah, I got to just stop feeling sorry for myself. And as you say, just bask in the luckiness.
Well, I'll end it with this about that, because that's what I've learned about being in a long relationship. Whatever the thing is over here, the fact that you're like, 1 plate, 1 bowl, it's connected to all your genius, right? So if it's like, that's how we are as people. We have this other one side that we're going to manage or kind of go, okay, come back over this way. But it's usually tethered in a direct line to something that everyone that's close to us loves about us. And so we have to have that tension and that, that pulling. We just do.
Yeah. Yeah. Tensegrity.
Yeah.
That's what my wife would call it. Thanks, Gabby. Love you.
Thanks. I love you. I wish everyone a loving and healthful and some moments of peace in 2026. Because I think if it can start with us, that's a good place to start.
Thanks for showing up.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. For more of my weekly musings, along with ad-free episodes and live stream conversations, head over to my Substack at jeffkrasno.substack.com. I also want to let you know about our course platform over on Commune, which contains over 3,000 lessons and practices from the world's leading integrative medicine doctors, health experts, and yoga, fitness, and mindfulness teachers. It's a living library for holistic well-being, and you can try it for free for 14 days at onecommune.com/try commune. As a reminder, the audio version of my new book, Good Stress, is available on Audible, and you can listen to it for free as part of your premium Spotify membership. And if you prefer the old school analog option, well, you can pick up a dusty old scroll at goodstress.com and get over $900 worth of bonus courses from some of my biggest influences, including Dr. Mark Hyman, Dr. Zach Bush, and Dr. Gabor Mate. As always, feel free to reach out to me with comments, questions, or criticism of the constructive variety at jeffk@onecommune.com. Okay, that's all from the Commune for today. My name is Jeff Krasno, and I am here for you.